Game of the Year goes to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Video games as a medium are as old as the planet itself, and by that I mean the 1970s. Over the last 50 years of this medium existing, we went from games like Pong and Space Invaders or Pac-Man to these big masterpieces of art, of storytelling, of music, of composition, of voice acting. And a lot of these games can be masterpieces of art in their entirely own ways. Some games like Mario 3D World might not be as apparent of why it's a masterpiece as something like, I don't know, The Last of Us, or why a little pixelated game about Celeste is one of the most emotionally moving games I have ever played. But sometimes, these pieces of art are so good, they deserve a trophy. And most mediums have their own awards shows. Movies have Oscars, so why not video games have their own Oscars as well?
Fuck the Oscars, you know?
Enter the concept of the Video Game Awards. While there are many different video game award shows out there, the most prevalent ones have always been hosted by Geoff Keighley. His very first video game awards program was Cybermania 94, the Ultimate Gamer Awards, which this show actually didn't go over super well, but it did actually lay the groundwork for his entire future career. He later on ended up hosting the Spike Video Game Awards, which later evolved into his own show not involving Spike at all, being just simply the Game Awards. And of course, there are other video game awards out there, such as Golden Joystick, DICE Awards, and typically other news outlet held awards such as IGN or Famitsu Awards. However, none of these get even remotely close to the popularity of Keighley's show. And over the years, this show has evolved a ton. From different guest appearances to different musical performances, to even the announcements themselves, people start showing up for this show for literally everything except for the awards themselves at this point. And this kinda started back in 2014 when Geoff Keighley was asking for favors for video game announcements to reveal at his show. And he got incredibly lucky with Nintendo, and Nintendo was just like, alright, here's the first gameplay reveal of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, just take it at the show. Oddly though, it was captured very weirdly. It was just Miyamoto and Aonuma sitting in chairs with the gameplay recorded with a camera. It's weird. This set a new precedent for different kinds of announcements that could be made at Keighley's show. And tons of big games get revealed here and continue to get revealed here. Recent years have had Bayonetta 3, Mortal Kombat 11, Sonic Frontiers, Alan Wake 2, and even DLC announcements such as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighter reveals and the Breath of the Wild Champions Ballad. But of course, the show is literally called the Game Awards. Debatably, the most important part of the show would be, you know, the awards. All these shows have a lot of different categories in common. Best art direction, best soundtrack, best sound design, best action, best fighting, and of course, Game of the Year. While the focus does tend to stay on the Game of the Year discussion, all these subcategories are also fun to look through, such as action, action-adventure, best simulation, best mobile, and the such. Sometimes these categories are really fun because not every game could get nominated for Game of the Year. So a lot of time it could take a smaller game and throw it in this category and get it some serious representation. It is especially prevalent for indie games when indies struggle to stand up against these prevalent AAA video games. Indies do get their own subcategory here, and Geoff Keighley has also even made it a point that when an indie game really does deserve it, it does actually get nominated for Game of the Year, such as Stray, Hades, and Celeste. However, these categories sometimes feel forced, such as Sifu getting nominated for Best Fighting. Like, sure, I guess you can make an argument that this is a fighting game. You do certainly fight people in this game. But using this same argument, you can literally apply God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, Bayonetta 3. Hell, you could make a debate for Sonic Frontiers fitting in this category just as much. It is also kind of clear that the biggest reason why this category looks this way is just simply because 2022 didn't have a lot of fighting games to fill this category with. Another yearly category that we have is Best Family Game, which is basically just Best Nintendo Game plus one other game that we feel the need to put in the category. And typically, Nintendo does win this category almost every year. Except for 2021, It Takes Two won, and I find that a little funny. Yeah, I'm gonna kinda just echo what a lot of people already say about this category, but I really feel like this needs to be altered or removed. It's really just the equivalent of the Best Animated Film category at the Oscars, just to give an excuse to just have all of the family-friendly stuff in one area, and then proceed to kinda omit it from most other things for the rest of the awards show. I do feel like it's just an odd category. It doesn't really feel like an award, it just feels like a participation trophy in a way. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of this category. I do kind of wish that this category will get altered in the future. However, another category that is one of my favorites at the Game Awards is Best Soundtrack, and oh my god, this is one of the best. Video game music is incredible, and every game goes for a completely different vibe that fits the game insanely well. While you could go from a game like Doom Eternal that has an altering OST based on what you are doing that current moment, to going to a game like Octopath Traveler with this incredible battle theme. Then you go to Mario Odyssey where every single world has its own wonderful soundtrack. And then you turn around and bam, Guardians of the Galaxy that's letting you listen to 70 songs while fighting space monsters. Then you go to a game like Breath of the Wild that has a very minimal soundtrack, but works perfectly for this game, this quiet tone that sets the tone for the entire game. But then when you hear those little piano notes, you know damn well you're fucked. Then Xenoblade 3, if you damn hear someone on a microphone, you know you're gonna be fucking crying that entire scene. And then we have Yoshi's New Island. Yeah, that one didn't get any awards. Video game music is incredible and deserves more recognition. And even the fact that Kirby won a Grammy recently is incredible. I love this category, though I do feel like this category might be a bit more subjective in taste of music, rather than one objectively being the best. But also, to be completely fair, this could literally be said about every other category. I just feel like it applies a little bit more here, but I still love this category. Speaking of OST though, the Game Awards added this incredible thing in 2017 being the Game Awards Symphony, that plays music from all the nominees throughout the show and ends off with the Game of the Year medley, playing bits of every single Game of the Year nominee together, and it is always one of my favorite parts of the show. It is so nice to hear these songs get live performances when a lot of the time we might not ever hear live performances of these songs on stage. Like, I can't imagine too many other places that we will ever hear It Takes Two music performed on stage. Or Metroid Dread. Or Persona 5. Or Spider-Man PS4. I think y'all get my point. This is incredible, and I think this needs to remain part of the show forever. This is one of the best things that Geoff Keighley has added to his show over the years. And of course, the most important category of them all,
The Game of the Year. Game of the Year.
The Game of the Year.
Game of the Year is...
This is the most debated category of all of them throughout the year, but only one game can win. So I want to do something fun. I want to go back through all of Geoff Keighley's past Game Awards shows, specifically being the ones after the Spike Game Awards. I want to go over the nominees and say what my personal pick would be, and also inform y'all what actually did win. The Game of the Year nominees for 2014 were Dragon Age, Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, and Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, with Dragon Age ended up winning Game of the Year. Well, gotta be honest, we're off to a great start considering I've only played one game on this list, being Bayonetta 2. My default answer would have to be Bayonetta 2 out of the nominees, but my actual Game of the Year is probably Mario Kart 8 or Smash 4. I'm not really sure, honestly. I'd have to really think about that, but honestly, it probably was Mario Kart 8. The 2015 Game of the Year nominees were Bloodborne, Fallout 4, The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Super Mario Maker. The winner ended up being The Witcher 3, and this year I have at least played a bit of every single game that was nominated this year. I think out of all the ones listed, I would have to also pick The Witcher 3 as my personal favorite. I played a bit of Bloodborne. I'm not a big Souls guy, honestly. Fallout 4, I did like it, but it wasn't love. I did really like Metal Gear 5, but I kind of just put it down and didn't finish it. And The Witcher 3, I also didn't finish either, but that one I did like the most. I did play Mario Maker. I wasn't as big on that game as I feel like a lot of other people were, so I'd have to go with Witcher 3. But if we're going off of games that were not nominated, Splatoon 1 came out that year. Splatoon 1's my Game of the Year, no question. 2016 had Doom, Inside, Titanfall 2, Uncharted 4, and Overwatch 1. How? Out of the games on this list, I have only played Overwatch and Doom 2016, and yeah, no, I think it's probably Doom 2016. I think Doom 2016 is just an incredible action game, and even if I didn't get around to playing Doom 2016 till years after it came out, I do think it is an amazing game. I have also heard a lot of great things about the other games nominated. I just haven't gotten to play them yet though. The Game of the Year nominees for 2017 were The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PUBG, and Super Mario Odyssey. Breath of the Wild won, and for me personally, this year is really tough considering 3 of the games on this list are in my top 5 games of all time. Let's get the ones out of the way that I'm not talking about though. Horizon Zero Dawn, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I know a lot of people love that game, and I do think it is a great game, but yeah, it just didn't hook me the way I think it hooked other people. PUBG should have not been nominated because it was still in early access. It wasn't done. It wasn't out. So I don't think PUBG deserved to be nominated for Game of the Year for 2017. So that leaves Super Mario Odyssey, Persona 5, and Breath of the Wild. Mario Odyssey was a return to form for 3D Mario, being one, if not the best 3D platformer out there. The movement is incredible, and I still love replaying this game every couple months, and I have since it came out. It is an incredible game that I cannot suggest enough. However, Persona 5 is an incredible game full of style. It has a wonderful story and some of the best JRPG characters ever, with some of the best music I have ever heard in a JRPG. My Game of the Year was Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry, I love all these games so much, it's hard to pick favorites, but Zelda is my favorite series ever, and Breath of the Wild is my favorite game in this series, and it is also my favorite game of all time. Of course Breath of the Wild is my favorite. The 2018 Game of the Year nominees were Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, Monster Hunter World, Red Dead 2, God of War, and Spider-Man. What are you doing here? The winner ended up being God of War, but for myself, the games that I played out of this list were Celeste, Spider-Man, and God of War. I do really want to try Monster Hunter World now that I'm starting to get into Monster Hunter, but that's going to be another topic for another time. In Red Dead 2, while I own it, I have not played it yet, but I don't think it would be on this list even if I did play it personally. But yeah, Celeste, Spider-Man, and God of War. And it is so hard to pick between these games because these are all 3 games, yet again, that are incredible for completely different reasons. Celeste is a wonderful 2D platformer that has a great message about depression and accepting yourself for who you are. God of War is an incredible game with a wonderful story with some incredible direction. Seeing Kratos more grown up and seeing him in this new world, it's great. And I am also just a huge fan of mythology in general, so I love playing these games and seeing mythology handled in a new way. And Spider-Man PS4 is probably the best Spider-Man game out there, with some incredible web swinging and another wonderful story from Sony. While this year is very tough, I think it's between God of War and Spider-Man for me, and I think my answer would change depending on the day you ask me, but right now, I'm gonna have to say Spider-Man. 2019 had Sekiro, Control, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and The Outer Worlds. Smash Ultimate being nominated here is very odd, because it did release in 2018, but it missed the window for the last Game Awards, so it gets nominated for 2019. I'm sorry, I'm not going to personally consider Smash for this year, I just feel like that's cheating. Sekiro ended up winning Game of the Year, and for me, if we're ignoring Smash, I've only played 2 games on this list. I played about 30 minutes of Sekiro, and I played the entirety of Death Stranding. As I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of Souls games, and Death Stranding, I was not a fan of, at all. So out of the nominees, I don't know what to pick. I don't know, I had to look back at what released in 2019, and I guess, I don't know, I liked Fire Emblem Three Houses and Katana Zero. I'll go with Katana Zero. The nominees for 2020 were Animal Crossing New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 ended up winning, and this is a rare year where I actually played every single game here. And not just like a tiny bit of the game, like I played every single game on this list to completion. Final Fantasy VII Remake is my game of the year for 2020. I love this game so much. But all the games here are great in their own respects. Animal Crossing New Horizons, I think, is debatably the game of the year of 2020 because of what we were going through that year. Everyone played that game for months staying at home. That is the 2020 game. Doom Eternal is also incredible, just taking everything from 2016 and just ramping it up. Ghost of Tsushima is also wonderful with some great stealth mechanics and an incredible style. Hades is one of the best roguelikes I have ever played, and that's coming from someone that does not like roguelikes. And even Hades, I didn't enjoy it at first, but when I gave the game more time, I started to like it more and more, completely ignoring the roguelike aspect of the game. And The Last of Us Part 2, yeah, we'll have to talk about this another time. 2021's Game of the Year nominees were Deathloop, It Takes Two, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. It Takes Two won, but honestly, looking at the list now, I'm not sure what I would pick. I own literally every single one of these games, but that does not mean I've played them. I played about an hour of Psychonauts 2 on Game Pass, I played a little bit of It Takes Two, I played the first act of Resident Evil Village, and I did really like that game. But out of the games on here, the only games that I've really put a decent amount of time into is Metroid Dread and Resident Evil Village. I feel like Resident Evil Village probably would be my game of the year if I actually finished it. But for now, yeah, it's Metroid Dread for me. And as of writing this video, the Game Awards 2022 have not occurred yet, but the nominees have been announced. The nominees are Elden Ring, A Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. To start off, just to get these 2 games off the list, I have not played Plague Tale nor Horizon. Stray I did play a little bit of, and I didn't finish it, but I do find it to be a very impressive game as a indie studio's first game. But what it's up against, it's definitely between Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, and Xenoblade 3. And Xenoblade 3 is not nearly as popular as the other 2, so realistically when it comes to what's going to win, it's definitely between Elden Ring and God of War. While out of those 2, my pick would be God of War Ragnarok, I totally understand the argument for why Elden Ring really is the game of the year. Elden Ring was a game that people talked about for months after the game came out, talking about things they found, different bosses to fight, different methods, and also just showing gameplay of just them playing with their friends. It was a game people talked about for a long time, and I feel like a lot of people feel like Elden Ring will win Game of the Year. Yeah, my Game of the Year is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have been meaning to do a video on Xenoblade 3 for so long. Ever since I beat the game, I've wanted to do a big video on this game. And for reasons I have not done it, I still want to do it. So I don't want to talk about this game too extensively right now. But the story in this game is one of the best that I have seen in any video game. The soundtrack is incredible. I love all of the characters in Xenoblade 3. I love everything they did with the Xenoblade universe in this game, connecting it all together in its own incredible way. I love everything about this game, and I want to talk about it more, but just not now. But just know it would be my game of the year. In conclusion though, the Game Awards continues to be a fun event to wrap up a year and look back at the incredible games that released. While the idea of award shows might just be arguing, oh, who's more popular, or what game is better than this other game that is barely even comparable, the Game Awards is still a fun event, with new announcements, getting to see these creators talk on stage, getting to see the music played on stage. The Game Awards is a very special event, and we'll see how the Game Awards turns out this year. I do have some content planned for the Game Awards, and I'm gonna leave that a secret. I hope you guys are excited for the Game Awards, as I am. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.